Hola, buenas tardes. Bueno, bienvenidos todos. Es una conferencia más de las que hacemos dentro del máster en diseño gráfico. Y hoy, bueno, ya sabéis todos, está Spassky Fischer, a ver si nos explican el porqué del nombre. Pero yo creo que el fenómeno más interesante es como, bueno, es una historia más o menos habitual de diseñadores que pasan por diferentes estudios hasta llegar como a un formato interesante, pero sobre todo yo creo que es en tan poco tiempo, ¿no? Estamos hablando de 2-3 años, cómo llegan a tener un lenguaje tan reconocible y tanto reconocimiento, ¿no? Entonces, esperemos que nos lo descubran hoy con la conferencia y os dejo con Manon Bruyé y con Thomas Petitjean de Spassky Fischer. Gracias.
Hello, so we are Thomas and Manon from Spassky Fischer. First of all, I think we have to apologize for our English because it's not so good, but you know, we try at least. And so first we wanted to show you the rest of the team because we are a group of 6 people working in Spassky Fischer, which is a graphic design and photography studio based in Paris. The first one is Giovanni, it's our intern now, in Italian intern. This is still Giovanni, sleeping. We were going to the Chaumont Festival in France. This is Hugo. But
so you will see that a lot of our time is taken by naps. This is me with one of my idols. It's Michel Butor, which is a French writer. I was really happy to have a choucroute with him.
This is Antoine. This is Thomas Petit.
The other Thomas.
The other Thomas Petit something. This is Hugo still. So Thomas Petit. So we live like a family. We share a studio in Paris, in the north of Paris, like a really nice studio. And we spend a lot of time working, but also napping and laughing and cooking also. So this is Julia. Julia again.
This is my daughter. She's Sana. She's 1 year old and she loves sweets. Oh,
and she's really cute. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. This is.
And this is my daughter's. One is not mine.
This is Matthias. We share the studio with him. It's an architect, and we also do 2 reviews with him, Classer and Spectre.
But you can see he gets used to the studio very fast.
Yes.
That was our previous studio where we had a nice parking where we could play people.
So Thomas Petit and Antoine. Thomas Petit without hairs and Patate.
Patate is the dog of Julia. It's a disgusting dog. It stinks a lot.
Thomas Petit. Okay. We cook sometimes.
This was a tartiflette. Okay, so
back to Giovanni.
But we need to sleep so much because we work a lot. Actually.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you should talk about Spassky Fischer name.
Yeah. We are often asked why we are called Spassky Fischer. This is. Spassky Fischer was a chess match. It was like the world championship of chess in '72, and none of us are chess players. We don't know anything about chess, except the story of Spassky Fischer that really interests us because it was in the middle of the Cold War. Sorry. Where Russian and American couldn't be in the same room at the same time. And it was really interesting, and what I really appreciate about this story is the story of the chairs. They are you can see on this picture they are playing on some lobby chair from Charles and Ray Eames. And at one point they were I don't remember if it was Spassky or Fischer who asked to change the chair because they thought it was not
Comfortable?
no, they said that maybe there are some bugs in the chair, and there is it was a big deal about the chair. And
Not
for
stable.
me, this chair is like one of the icon of design. I really love this chair, so I really like the story about it. And what I really like is that at one point there is some like big issue about a chair, about a design product in the middle of a huge World War context. So that's why we choose this name. But the real story of it, we liked the way it sounds. So it was the first reason, because our name sounds typically French, and we didn't want to look like a French studio like Dupont et Dupont.
And I think that also what is now interesting is that we are 6 people working under the name of 2 people, and also sometimes they ask, hey, this is Spassky or Fischer, and this is funny also. So we wanted to start with an overview of our work, and then we will talk about the tools that we use, but we thought it was interesting first to see the picture that you probably already saw on the internet, but
yeah, it's like a quick overview, but then you will understand what we are talking about later.
Yes, and you will see different moments of
yeah, it's more chronological way to show it. For example, this is the first project. This project is, I did it 12 years ago, I think, when way before Spassky Fischer, but it's one of the projects I keep from this period, because almost all the ingredients of our work are still already there. So this was identity for a publisher. This is a book for an exhibition, like a catalogue d'exposition, for Jimmy Durham, American artist, in Musée d'Art Moderne de la Ville de Paris. This was the catalogue for Larry Clark. So we did quite a lot of books first. We did this book for CCCB here in Barcelona. Which was an incredible story. The designing these books was very, very interesting, but maybe we'll talk about it later. And then after we started to do bigger project, I mean another scale. It's not big as not big money, unfortunately, but already bigger scale. And this was the signage and scenography of the exhibition of Sigma in Bordeaux. So I really liked this project because it was like about space more than only pages of books. Another book for Musée d'Orsay. For example, we started doing books for McVal. Few books for McVal,
which is a contemporary art museum in
the suburb of Paris.
Val-de-Marne.
Who knows where?
Yes, suburb of Paris.
And then after we started doing books, then we started to work on the visual identity, all the posters, and step by step we did some bigger project. This is the last poster we did. Photography for them now. of the signature. I think the biggest size we never did. So we are quite proud of it. This is the book we designed for Michel Butor, the guy who did the choucroute earlier. And this is the museum. That's our, not our latest client, but our main client from the. So we design posters and all the corporate identity, and the pictures also.
So as you can see, we work mainly for a cultural field, like mainly only, no?
Actually, we work only for cultural institutions.
So for two big museums, and sometimes we do artist books and exhibition books, but we always use the same tools, actually.
Yeah, when people ask us to define our style, which is a very like usual question, we don't really know what it is, because we are 6 people. We don't look at the same things, but okay. So we try to define what you can see in our work. The first, actually, it's true that the first thing is maybe the typeface. In the last few years, I think we almost, it's like 80% of the time, we use the same font. So this is Neuhaus Grotesque, which is the most beautiful font ever.
It was designed by the Christian Schwarz, and it was actually a redrawing from the Helvetica, the original Helvetica.
Yeah, it's a revival of the Helvetica,
That's
and
in
it's
the original version.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know anything about typography. I'm not good at this. Hugo and Antoine are much better than me on this subject. So I won't try to explain why we choose this version of Helvetica, this Neuhaus. But I can tell you that every time we try to use another font, I feel uncomfortable with the other font. But it's a real issue for me, because I'm so used to this font that every other font looks clumsy. So we did quite a lot with this font. We did also like this kind of custom of the font.
Yes.
Like a tuning custom.
So you see different kind of project, website, identity, books, music.
Record sleeves.
This is a poster.
I think we really like the neutrality of the font. I think it's perfectly I don't know. I think it's this kind of letter that everybody knows, so they don't ask why is this shape or this kind of font. It's a real standard. Yeah, the choice of the typeface is quite important for us, because most of our projects are focused on the typeface. So it was at the beginning it was really difficult to stick to one typeface, but now we are quite okay with this.
Yes.
Especially.
So this is an ongoing project, this one?
Yeah, this is the start of a project that we're gonna design the identity for kind of museum. and but I think we will speak about it later. But this is quite representative from the work we want to do. Kind of work we really like. I think this, which is interesting with this kind of font, and it was said already with the, for example, in the DVD of Helvetica, the movie Helvetica, is that you can say, I think it was Massimo Vignelli who said you can say anything in everything in Helvetica, and I think it's true. Like, it's what we really like about it. It's that we are really focused on the word itself and not the shape of the word, and it's quite neat. The second, maybe the second part of our work, of what you can see of our work, is the photographies.
So Julia, that you saw cooking, is the photographer of Spassky Fischer. So she used to do several kind of projects. This is a selection of still life that she is doing, especially for a client or just for experimentation. So I can show you some. So the beginning of all this was Hugo, Antoine, and Thomas never use photographies.
Yeah, we had a kind of mistrust for pictures. We were not very comfortable with using pictures because we always thought that it was like a kind of lie. I don't know why. We were very uncomfortable with it, and after a while, we realized that what we didn't like with the picture, it was a vocabulary that we didn't really manage to use, and you don't really, I mean, you don't really decide what kind of. When you design a book, for example, you don't really decide for what kind of picture you're gonna use. People give you the picture, they give you the text, and you do something with it. And the picture is something you really see. I mean, it's the first thing most of the people see.
Yeah.
So we were quite uncomfortable with this. And after a while, we realized that if we did ourselves the pictures, then it meant that we can have a real.
It's about
like
having good pictures first, and then having also a coherent language in all the communication. So now we try to integrate photography to most of our projects. So the main clients are Magval and Museum, so 2 museums, and so Julia is doing for each program a series of photographies, and sometimes for the posters also. So this is for the Magval. So we also try to, because with this kind of client, what is also sometimes complicated is that you don't have to confuse pictures that we do with like art pictures.
It's always difficult when you try to input some pictures like this in a museum program or poster or whatever. You have to really be clear about who did the pictures and for what. So there is these pictures that we do. For example, the first series we did for the Magval was a series about the architecture of the Magval. So this is the but we had to integrate it to in a way that it's clearly not an art piece.
So what is also comfortable with the fact that we are doing pictures is actually that we can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah,
like we can put color, we can cut it, we can crop it, and
yeah, we are quite easy with the use of our own image. Then we can put like as you saw before, like the caption over our picture. if we have done it with another picture, that the photographer would have said, "Oh, and why did you do this with my picture?" So we are trying to have a new tool with this. I mean, it's not so long that we started to work on photography, but we are trying to put more time, and we really think that it's something important, because it's also something that clients really like. They like to have pictures in the books. They
their
like
own
to,
pictures.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's also a way for us to be expert in a way with photography, because if you have a photographer in your studio, you can say, "Hey, this picture is not good enough to put it in the program," and they say, "Oh yes, you are an expert because you have a photographer in your studio." This is also a way to discuss about pictures and be more credible in front of a client.
As you will see, a lot of our work is focused on how you can manage with the client, make they trust you on taste. I mean, we have no more. We have most of our choice are based on our taste and not so much about real effect on the design. So it's always difficult to discuss with the clients of this kind of stuff. This is after we did the MacVal and we started to do photography with the MacVal. We started to do the same with the museum, which is.
But for the museum, it was really part of the proposal.
Yeah,
yes, at the beginning, it was really part of the ingredients of the communication and finally identity of the.
When we did the competition for the museum, it was one of the main ingredient of the identity, and we really wanted to push them to make their own photos, because most of the pictures were done by different photographers, and most of the time we thought that it was not really good photos. So we really wanted to push them to do photography themselves, and we could provide this. So
in the museum we use it for posters, as you see. We use it also for official documents. How do you say, like institutional documents? We use it in the programs. We use it in the flyers. So this is actually like an annual report, and it's for us the main like the most manifest.
Yeah, it was kind of it was the first annual report we designed for them, but it was the first year that we installed the identity, so we wanted it a little bit like a manifest of the identity. It's what is really interesting for us is this kind of document. Most of the designers don't really care about these documents because they are not really visible. Yeah. You have to, for example, to have this, you have to write to the museum, and then they may send to you one, and you're not sure that they will send.
This is also
for example, it's really interesting because then they don't really care about what you do at this kind of.
Yeah, because this is a really administrative document. This is the moment where the institution said, okay, we bought this, we had this amount of visitors, and so it's only, I think, for state, for l'État. And so yes, they don't care because this is not so spread.
Yeah. But then we did this with embossing and dust cover and 3 different papers and this kind of stuff.
And what is also interesting is that in this kind of document, usually you have children going to see the exhibitions, or I don't know, a lot of pictures really not interesting. And we succeeded in putting only Julia's pictures in it. So you have a special.
Yeah. For example, we started to tell them that their pictures were not good, so we wanted to avoid all the pictures. After they accepted to avoid all the picture, we came back and we said, okay, now that there's no picture, maybe we should put picture. So and then we start to show them what we could do with pictures. And most of the time, when you show people like this, the difference of quality, finally they understand it. Yeah, for example, this exhibition was about the
translating.
And we didn't have good pictures. All the art piece in the exhibition were not very
clear. Also.
Yeah, it was not easy to use in a poster, and I think it was a little bit too complicated for a poster. So we started we proposed them to do some pictures of people speaking. So we did a series of pictures like this. And
this is a wish card.
Yeah, this is like a New Year card, and we did it as a calendar with all the pictures. We really wanted to have something really classical on a classical
model of calendar. Like
yeah,
with
subject
flowers
like flowers and stuff like this, but in a more on our way. And the third element that we really usually use is color. Actually, as you can see on this one, when we are quite free of to do what we want, and when we are like when the clients are easy, we don't propose color. The color for us is really a way to make them accept our design. I mean, for us, the color doesn't mean so much. And for example, when this poster for me, if it would have been in black and white or in color, it doesn't make a big difference. I mean, it would be maybe a bit plain in black and white, but I would be happy with it. But it's really a way to make people more, I don't know, more emotional about the work. Yes. It's like when you start to put color in it, they think it's more lively, or I don't know, something like this. So we noticed this with our clients, so we started to use color in this way. But I think what was very difficult in the first place when we started to use color is that color is we use color in a very unemotional way. I mean, we don't use color for what it is supposed to say. I mean, I never really trust that the red was the color of love or of passion, or I don't know. I like the red, and that's all. So we did this Rastafari identity for Mucem, but that's okay. I think as you don't really see the Rasta side when you only receive one color.
So for the McVal, it was the beginning of the color for Spassky Fisher, I think. But then now with the Mucem, it's really part of the identity. So we have to use it actually in almost every document. So this is always a big conversation. But
yeah.
But we always try to use it. I mean, when we do a poster for an exhibition, we don't use yellow because this is an exhibition about sun. We really try to use it because of the materiality that it has and the way it looks good with other elements. But we really try not to make it symbolize something. Like, we don't want this.
Yeah, most of the time it's more a question of contrast or question of composition,
yes,
or stuff like this, but not really. But it's quite difficult because when you talk with clients about this, they always like they say,
See
okay,
something.
we understand that it's not a symbol or nothing, but maybe you should put blue because it's summer and we want to see blue sky. This kind of reaction. So it's always a long discussion. So yeah, at one point we started to realize that the way we, just to be clear, we never really think about this kind of question when we are working. We are not like looking at our work every day and saying, what
is the use of
why do you use this color? Why do we use the words and stuff like this? But we doing some talks. You have a new look on your work, and it's true that we realize that we have this way of using word and way of using the color in what we call the concrete way of using it. We say that it's more related to concrete art in Switzerland in the 60s. I mean, it's really, we use color from the color, we use word for the word, and we don't want any other explanation on that.
I think that for us, the content make the form. I mean, in French we say plasticité, but I don't know if plasticity means something in English. But for the materiality of the letters, we have this element, so we try to compose this element in the page, and the elements that are composing the page make the page. I mean, I don't know if it's clear enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true that most of the time the feedback we have of our work is that it looks like really like in a modern heritage and modernist heritage, and it looks functionalist, but we realize that it's not really true. I mean that we, as Manon said, we started to realize that we don't work like we were told at school. I mean, we never rely to the subject itself. We don't really trust that we should put, like for example, a font from the 50s if we are doing a book about the 50s. We are more concerned about the content itself. I mean, how much text you have, how many pictures you have. Is the pictures good enough to put it in color or in black and white, or how many pages we have to display everything. It's more in this kind of thinking that we start work. I mean, we never do like a layout without all the contents. We wait to have all the content and then we start the layout. Because for us it's really important to really understand the structure of the book and etc. But yeah, for example, the way we work, we always like start to work with a system, and we really like to think that to have a system in mind. But what we really like about it's when it doesn't work actually, because it's when the system doesn't work that the new idea is coming. I mean.
So we are going to show you some works that we do with a system. Because this is for us an escape, because we are using always the same tools. So if you use always the same tools, you have to find a way to use it differently to make the project singular in a way. So system is for us a solution, but it is also, I don't know, I mean, a way of working.
Yeah, it's like a first step, and I think it's quite
comfortable.
Yeah, it's quite comfortable to have a system in mind when you start a work. Then you can, yeah, you look at this and you say, you know where you are going. But it's true that all the work we did with this kind of shame, where at the end you stick to the system, we feel that those works are the most boring that we did. For example, what I like about this work, it's the identity of an agency in Paris, and we had this idea about some things growing up and always divided the same way. And what I like about it, it's at one point we realized that it was not possible to do this kind of scale effect with all the words. For example, if you have only 2 words, then it's not working. But then we decided to cut the words. So it becomes a little bit stupid in a way, but that's what we like about it. Because then it becomes different, because it's stupid. It's not always easy, because we did this. For example, we did a work for to make the identity of an art school in France, and it was really complicated because it was a school of design and art, but there were 2 schools going together, and at that point it was quite difficult because we started to work on the corporate identity, but the guys from the art part told us that they don't trust graphic design. They think graphic design is like bullshit for commercial stuff, and they don't want to hear about it. And in a way I understand them, because most of the graphic design we see is bullshit, so I understand that. So we realized that we couldn't work like the usual way, where you do a logo and then you do you put the logo on the letterhead and then the same logo on a book. So we tried something different, based more on conceptual art, like the certificate from Sol LeWitt, or this kind of process, where we just gave to the school, we gave them some rules they had to take quite seriously. So
this is a guideline document.
Yeah, this is the guideline document.
And this is only text, so they have to, in a way, they have to interpret it.
Yeah.
But follow it at the same time. So.
But this was a big failure actually, because we did this. We wanted only to give them this document, these guidelines, but they asked us, okay, we are really happy with this idea, but the secretary doesn't really know how to use InDesign, so you have to make us one letterhead. We said, okay, let's do one letterhead. And then after they told us, like, oh, we have this book for the students we have to design, and it's quite rushed, so could you please design it? So we designed it. But after that, because it was quite painful to do also, because it was difficult clients, but after that we wanted to stop. And we told them that they have to manage themselves with the guidelines. What they did is that they scanned the letterhead and they put the letterhead everywhere. So it never really happened.
Yes, because what we always try to avoid is the logo, as you understood. Like the system is also a solution for us to avoid this kind of stamp, you know, that you put on every format that you do. And so a system is also a good thing for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we started to work at one point where there were logos everywhere, and we didn't really want to spread that way of working anymore, because I think logo was sold to a lot of institutions that really didn't really needed it, and now they have to use it. And for example, when you work for a museum and after you design a book for them and they say, okay, it's really good, but you have to put the logo on the front cover, you're like, oh, okay. So I don't want to do it for the museum. For example, I think it's maybe the only difference I make between institutional, cultural field and commercial field is I think that most of the time the cultural field doesn't really need a logo because they don't have something to sell. I mean, they have to sign their document, but they don't have to sell an image of culture. Yeah, actually. But times to times we do design logo because we have no choice. Because for example, for the McVal, after a while they really asked for a logo because, for example, for all the paperwork they really needed it. So we designed something which is kind of a logo. I mean, we always use the same font, so we can say it's a logo. It's enough, I think.
But we try to use it in a different way in every format that we do. Like for the programs or for this. This is a booklet for teachers.
Yeah.
And especially on the posters. Like you always have this McVal, but it's always in a different way, but corresponding to a really complicated system. No?
Yeah, and when we did all this work for this museum, and we for example, the McVal identity, we designed it a few years ago, where when we didn't really start using almost only NeuAS. But for example, now that we use, let's say 90% of the time NeuAS, and color and photography, always the same ingredient, you really have to find a new way to use it every time. And I think this is what is really challenging and what is really interesting. We use the same tools every day, and again and again, and it becomes maybe sometimes it's a bit sometimes it's difficult to find new ideas, but I think the way we use it is, I mean, the ingredient to make an identity are not that complicated. It's more like the way you use it, and it's, I think also what is really complicated is I don't want to say that we are like graphic designer and nobody could do this but us. But it's true that every time someone else is using the same tools that we do, they don't have the same result. And this is something very interesting for me. I don't know how, but I don't know why we don't do the same thing, because we are using exactly the same material. This is a modular identity we designed for an architect. The content, for example, the content of the letterhead is pushing what we call the logo, but it's more like the name. And every time, for example, you can see on the letterhead, if there are more content that it push the logo. We really like this kind of identity. We are not that are not settled, like who are all that are always moving.
I think that what we like also in this kind of ideas is like this is really simple. You say, okay, the content push the header. How do you say?
Yeah.
Letterhead, and so this is really basic, and this is what is also interesting in a way.
That was what was interesting for example, in this the logo we designed, because for the FRAC is like Fonds Régional d'Art Contemporain, so it's like a state museum, but it owns to a different region. I don't know what you say. And for example, this FRAC is the FRAC Bourgogne-Franche-Comté, which is a part of France. And we noticed that the FRAC name was already in the name of the region. So we just put it like this. We really like this kind of ideas because it's so simple that it works at every time. And for example, on the website, kind of explain how it works if you just look at the logo. It's really basic. I mean, it's not a great idea, but it's what makes it simple and efficient. For example, I did this book a few years ago. It was at that point I was working quite a lot with this artist, Benoît Mer, and he was working on a new series of. He did an exhibition about one work, and when we were working on the book of this work, he was working on another series of work, and he decided to mix a little bit both of them. The new series of work was about the measurement tools that he used to measure things in the like everywhere in the street, in the garden, but he had this idea of something like that changed the way you do measurement of things. So we started to work on this book, and at one point, I don't know why, we were discussing about the book design, and we said that maybe it would be nice if the book was growing page after page. And we did this thing, like every page, the font is one point bigger. And it's like, also it's a stupid idea, but when you look at the book, it makes it weird. I mean, it makes it different from what we see. You don't really notice it the first time you open the book, and after a while, I think after a few pages, you wonder why the font is so big. But it was just a simple idea on this.
But also sometimes I think that the systems are a bit dumb. Like for this book that we did recently, this is a bilingual book with English and French, and so French and English are the other way around.
Yeah,
upside down. But there is no system in the way they are upside down, so sometimes you have like 4 pages in French, and then 1 page in English, and then 10 pages in French, and then 12 pages in English. So this is always, sometimes there are limits in the system also.
Yeah, it's true that we sometimes feel a bit trapped in our own ideas. I mean, sometimes we designed this book, and for example, if I read it now, it's really difficult to read, and I think it's it was maybe not the best idea we had, but it's like this.
And sometimes also we are really stuck in our own systems, our own obsessions. I mean, so this is two posters that we
for two different museums. We did at the same time.
Yes. So we were so stuck in vibrating colors. I don't know.
Yeah, we were actually. We will see on after, but we were like, it was really difficult to make the poster of for the museum, the poster you have on your right. It was so difficult with the clients that at one point we were working on the other one for McVal, and this one was really easy. We said to the client, okay, we would like to do like this with two colors and one positive, one negative. He said, okay. So we were and we were struggling on the other one, and I don't know. At one point, we started to do exactly the same thing, but we didn't really realize that at that time. And there is some project like this. For example, it's two different websites for two different galleries. The thing is, we started to work on Thomas Bernard Gallery, and we were not very comfortable with the website at that time. So we started to find some way to deal with it, but it became like the only way we know to design a website. So the other website we did almost exactly the same thing. The problem is, a few months later, the second gallery moved in the same street. So they have exactly the same. They have exactly the same website, and it's next door. So that's kind of the limit of our ability to change every time. Yeah, this is more to show you how difficult sometimes it's to work on some project.
Because often people tell us that we have a quite authoritarian style. Like, I mean, because of the font, because of the ingredient that we often use, but we also try to be really. We also work a lot together, I have to say. But sometimes it doesn't work well, and that's an example. So it was a poster for an exhibition about the cafe in the museum. So this big museum we won 2 years ago, and it was the first poster. So with a picture of Julia. And then you will see like the evolution of the poster. So most of the times they say, hey, we don't like the colors, maybe you can change the colors, so we try.
And maybe it's a bit confusing, there is too much color, and maybe the way the picture is cut is not nice, or this kind of thing. So we did quite a lot of trials, we changed the pictures.
We tried to make a series with different pictures. But finally, no. So we came back with
every one you can see here is like is sent to the client. The client responds, and we go back to the client. And so for at one point this version was almost accepted. But for any reason, there is someone new in the museum that says, "Oh, but maybe we shouldn't do this because the repetition of the name is not good." We never really know why our work is okay or not. So most of the time, we try to just change something and try to understand what they meant.
Most of the time we try to do what we call a step aside. So we sent something to the client, and he says yes, I don't like this, and this. So we try another proposition, like totally en prenant compte ce qu'ils disent.
We try to take care of what they say.
what they
Actually,
say.
this is something very important for us. This sidestep, as we called it, is one of our big statements in the studio. I mean, when the client when a client refuses one of our projects, we always try to understand why he refuses it. But most of the time, they only said, "Oh, maybe you should put the name a little bit bigger, or this a little bit smaller," on this kind of stuff. But you try it and you see that it's not working anymore. So instead of just trying to adapt it, we prefer to do a real different proposition.
But for this
it's quite for the museum it's not always possible because we need more time to do it. But most of the time we try to do it, because if a client tells you why it doesn't like your proposal, then you have the freedom to do something much more radical at that time, because you can just take what they say and push it to the maximum. And that's what we really often say. We really often do. I mean, for example, if a client say, "Oh, okay, we should do it in color," we put a lot of color in it. If he said, "Oh, maybe the name should be slightly bigger," we put the name as big as possible, because we really think it's an opportunity to do something different and to push the limits of the work. And it's also why a lot of people think that our work is like, they say that, "Okay, but your clients are easy with you. They let you do whatever you want." It's absolutely not true. They are always on our back, and it's really sometimes really boring, but that's life. But we really want to understand why they don't want to accept a project, and we try to find a way to make them happy with the project.
So as you can see, when we do a poster for the museum, for example, there are like 100 trials, because this is always about color, about composition, about.
And if you look at this series, okay, we did a lot of trial, but I don't know if you noticed it, but at the end, it's only the logo which on the bottom of the poster that are moving. The design of the logo and the bottom of the poster is like maybe
the most important.
Maybe half of the time of the work of the poster. We don't care. We would like to put no logo. It would be the ideal position. But when a client tells you, for example, that you have to put this logo bigger because the client gave 200,000 euros for an exhibition, it's difficult to argue that you don't want to put the logo. I mean, you don't have the same power of persuasion.
But to have big museums, I think that it's important to say that we didn't start. We started from the bottom. That's it. And so for the MACVAL, for example, we started with designing the books.
Yeah, we started with designing books, then we designed posters, then we designed the signage and almost everything except the website, because for weird reason, but we will do it one day. But working with the MACVAL was very. We learned a lot from the MACVAL, because we have very good relationship with the people in the museum, and they really helped us to install this identity. I think if we went to the museum in the first place saying that we want to avoid your previous logo, we want to to put the picture on your poster on black and white, or we want to at the end, now we don't have any more picture on the poster. All this kind of decision would have been impossible if we did it too soon or too fast. It took us a lot of time to understand that all the people in the museum have to get use of our work, and when they start to understand it, then you can do a next step. And they are at the end, they are really happy with our work, I think. And even the public, the visitors of the museum get used to it. But it was not easy in the first place. I think it was really different from what they had before. So they needed time to get used to it. So when we started the museum after that, we really had this in mind, that we need to take our time with this. We started because we won a competition about the posters, and we were supposed only to do the posters. But we knew that they wanted to do all the corporate identity after. But in the first step was to explain to them that they didn't need a logo, so we could avoid our previous logo. And they said, okay, but you have to design a new logo now. But we said, no, we can wait for a while without logo. And we started to work on the posters and a lot of different printed matters. And as I told you before, what is really interesting. It's, for example, this is the institutional booklet that they give to other museums and stuff like this. But this is totally free. It's a total freedom in this kind of printed matters on documents. It's all the documents that goes to the public which is much more difficult to handle, because then they start to wonder how it will be seen, and but we try to work with the small document to put together all the basic idea of the identity, and then when they are used to it, we go bigger with the. And now, for example, we just finished the website of the museum, and we may start the signage of the museum. But you have to understand that it's a big museum in a quite big city, and people are really linked to the museum. For example, when we did the competition, so we won the competition with a project. And after that, they said, "Okay, you will do the work, but first we want to show it to people, representative people that would come to the museum." So it was like the guy from the syndicate for hotelier for the hotel. It was one guy that drives buses to come with all with groups of people in the museum. This kind of people were invited to discuss the identity with us. It was one of the worst moments of my life. They said it was that was horrible. That they say something like, "Okay, of course you notice this poster in the streets because it's so ugly. Of course you notice it." So this kind of stuff. It was really difficult, but then you really understand what they have to deal with every day. So I think we are more patient now with them.
Yes. So this is the biggest project that we are dealing with.
Yeah. For example, last year we did 200 different...
180 different formats, like program, from the program to the posters and
all these different printed matter. We did 180 documents,
yes.
which was quite a lot for us. Trying to put together an identity
Yes.
and make them understand how we work.
And I think that we were talking about it earlier. I think what is interesting in this is like we have 3 ingredients, the same that we work with every day. So this typeface, pictures and colors, and then we are really free to do whatever we want, but also to discuss with the client. So I think that we made some trials, like the.
Yeah, everything is not good. We have
good, this one is not
we
good,
have to say that we are not really happy with most of the posters, for example, because the posters is one moment where everybody wants to take part of the discussion, and it becomes very, very difficult. But we,
So finally, we didn't design the logo, but we just make them accept that every time that it's written museum on the document, it's enough. So we designed this like a guideline.
Yeah, it's actually we designed the guideline. It was really difficult for us because we knew that we couldn't explain what we are doing. I mean, in the guidelines there is like these 3 parts. There is the part about the font, how you should use it, we never use capitals on this kind of stuff. There is the way we use color, and there is the way we use photography.
And then there is a way we combine it together.
Yeah, but
this was really
most of the. I mean, all the page we wrote about it, we explain what you should or you shouldn't do, but all the rules we don't use it in our everyday work. I mean, for example, we say never use capital. If tomorrow I need to do a poster and I think it's better in capital, I will do it in capital.
Yes.
But it's then.
I think we have been really restrictive because we also wanted them not to feel so free, because I mean there are only 3 elements, so it can be really everything and anything. But we wanted to avoid. I don't know. We just.
But it's really difficult for us to imagine that someone else would use the guidelines. Every time, because they are not working only with us with this museum, because they have some. I mean, it's quite complicated to have this kind of work in France. You have to apply to a competition, and the competition doesn't work for all the project of the museum. For example, they have another team for the signage, but for example, they ask to this team to use our work, but they are not. I mean, they are quite good designers also, but they don't do it the same way that we do, and it's always hurting us when we see stuff like this. It's always difficult to.
For example, the website at the beginning, there were a competition, so people won the competition for doing the design also, and we gave the guidelines to help them designing, but it was like the same ingredients, but really done in a strange way. I mean, really more corporate way. I don't know how to explain that. But finally, it was.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult to make them understand that they are doing a mistake with this. Especially when you're speaking to another graphic designer, then and they said like, okay, but I did exactly what you wanted. I took the Neuas,
I put colors,
and that's all, and so it's easy. What you do is easy, and you look at the website and you're like, how can we do? And the good thing is people we are working with, they start to understand that, because they start to get used to what we do, the way we do it. And for example, they start to see I think they start to see the way we do margins in documents. When they see a new document which is not made by us, they start to notice it's different. They don't know how to explain it to us, but they understand it's different. So at the end, they asked us to design the website ourselves, and it was a huge work. But I think it's still not really 100% working. But it was a good experience. And it was a good explain of the identity.
And I think that finally we are really happy with what we do with them, because they are ambitious. They trust you. They trust us. And so the website is also like, it was not really well seen by the public, received by the public, but
yeah, this is also something. For example, when the website went out, the people from the museum told us, okay, we have very bad feedback from the public, and we said, okay, what's happening? And we have this mail complaining about the way you use the website, etc. Or for example, we had a comment on once we were looking for one of our book that was sold out, so we looked on internet to buy it. So we went to Amazon and we saw the comment of the book, and one of the comments of the book was really it was quite funny, but at the same time it's quite difficult. The guy said, this book is one of the worst ever. It's designed in a dumb way. Like the captions are too big. The numbers of the pages are like way too big and not at the right. They are moving in the page. This kind of stuff. And it was like a long critique of the work, and we were like, okay, this is the way people see our work. So there is two solutions. Either you really want to avoid all this kind of decision because you see that you understand that the public won't accept it, or you do it for you. And I think most of the time we are working for us. But yeah, I mean, but this is something also that we wanted to explain to you. It's that I think we are. I mean, we started the studio in a new circumstances where we don't really see the work as the people from the elder generation saw it. I mean, in France there were always this big argument about the designer should be an artist or should not be an artist, or it should be an author, but also all the story of the crystal goblet and this kind of things. I think we grew up with the idea of the blogs and on internet, and you mix everything, and we feel much more comfortable with the idea of just being a graphic designer, and we don't have to be an artist or an author, or we are just we like what we do. I think we do it quite well. I mean, we put some effort in it, so it should be okay.
I think that we can say that as we often use the same tools, we have a kind of signature, like an identity as a designer. But what is important for us is not to be an author. It's like sometimes we also do the content. Sometimes we also do the content. Like for the museum, we write an edito at the beginning of the program, but we like to do it because just Hugo and Antoine like to write, so it's a good exercise for us, and it's a good way to also participate in the process of.
But it's a little bit the same thing as the pictures. I mean, we didn't want to be dependent on the picture, so for the text we are trying to push them to write, to let us write the text ourselves, because then we can do whatever we want with the text. And for example, you can cut it if you want.
Yes.
You can avoid a few words and this kind of stuff. It's really practical.
But finally, what interests us is just to design content. It's not really to be authors.
For example, they asked us to design the. It's like this kind of small sheet you have at the entrance of the exhibition to explain the exhibition. We were asked to do like a A4 for them. It was in Chaumont. It was an exhibition about the faces in the posters. So we started to design it, but while we were working, we started to collect a lot of pictures of faces, and at the end we wanted to make something with all these pictures, and this little A4 became a 100 pages newspaper, and yeah, it became something more in the exhibition. I mean, it was not only a A4. The problem is, the exhibition was supposed to be seen by kids, and we had the good idea to put pornographic pictures in the newspaper, so they never really gave it to the public. Non, d'autres des pires. Okay. I think we have. Oh, maybe this. I will just talk about this poster. It's more because I like it, but it's not that important. But this. Yeah.
I think it is important in the way you have to work as a graphic designer. You always have to wait for a content, and especially like Thomas said, we don't design until we have the whole content to make sure that like we can figure out how it will work, and so this was a poster for an exhibition, and we didn't have any information about the.
The artist is one of Hugo's friend. He had Hugo on the phone to ask him to design a poster for his exhibition. But he said, okay, I'm gonna have an exhibition in Brussels, but I don't know exactly where, and I don't know when it will start. And Hugo asked him, but what are you gonna show in the exhibition? He said, okay, the exhibition is in maybe 2 months. And we didn't really have the time to work on it, so we still don't know what's going to be in it. Maybe there is this old piece of art that I will show. It's called Les Grandes Ascensions, and Les Grandes Ascensions is a piece where he displays objects where mountains are on the label. So we had no more information, but we wanted to do the poster because he is a good friend of Hugo, and we were quite happy to work with him.
So finally, we wrote a text about what Hugo's friends told us on the phone. So this is maybe in Brussels, this is maybe in this place, and this will be about. Hugo wrote the text.
Yeah. Hugo wrote a text that explained the context where we designed the poster, and also, as we didn't have a real picture of the art and the art piece, we decided to do a Photoshop collage. Montage, yeah. And this picture is made out of 15 different pictures of mountain. But it was more an exercise for us that
Yes.
we are not really used to pictures and to Photoshop. So we really wanted to try to give it a try. So we did these pictures and then we added the text, and so everything in the poster is made by us, but it doesn't show anything about the real exhibition. We printed it in Italy on something like a PixArt, or I don't know how it's called, but it's really cheap printing. We printed like 50 copies for like maybe €100 or something like this. Something really cheap like this. And the funny part of it is that we won a prize at Chaumont International competition with this poster, and we were very surprised that we had we sent other poster that we thought maybe it would be selected, but this one won, and we didn't really understand. Okay, that's about it.
Most of the time you work for museums. Why?
It's a good question. No, I don't know how it is in Spain. I had the occasion to discuss with German people about it, and they were very surprised also that we are only designing stuff for museums. And they said, you are really lucky that you can work only for museum and earn a living with this. But actually, it's not a choice. We really would like to work for other fields. We would love to work for industry, but in France it's really complicated. If you're working with museums, then only museums want to work with you. I don't know how it is in Spain, if it's easier or not, but for example, in Germany, they said that it was way more easier for them because it was more difficult for them to have enough clients in cultural field to earn a living, but for us, we feel very trapped in this. The thing is also, and which is maybe difficult for people in the industry or in all this cultural, this commercial field, which is difficult for them to work with us, is that we have a position where they know that we won't change our design for them. We want to work the same way for cultural or for commercial. We think we can do great stuff in industry. Working with museum is not easy at all. They have exactly the same attempt than everybody. Like they want to have as much people coming in exhibition as possible. They want to sell as much books as possible. It's exactly the same thing, but they are more used to this kind of design. That's the only difference for me.
It was also because at a certain moment you met lots of people from cultural, and then.
No, it's true that at the beginning it was on purpose. When I started to work 12 years ago, I wanted to work for art because I really liked the art, and I was really interested in all this. So I wanted to work with art. But after you start, as Manon said, you start to work with people, and then that's how your network grows, and but it never went out of the cultural field. So maybe one day we will do something else. But maybe I think also that we need, as our work is different from what they expect, we need to wait that those clients comes to us. I mean, we are very bad at prospecting.
Prospecting.
Yeah, exactly. We are very bad at business development, and we think that we're gonna wait for them to come to see us, which is a bit risky, but okay for the moment.
¿Alguna pregunta más?
You said there was a story about the Pasolini catalog that he did here, and I was wondering what it was about.
No, it was like it's not a big story. It's nothing really funny, I think. But no, it was really interesting because when we worked on this catalog, we had access to all the archive of photography of Pasolini. And I learned at that moment that Pasolini was the most photographed person of his era with Marilyn Monroe. So there's a lot of pictures of him, and so we had access to all this archive, and Spanish curator was really specialized in Pasolini. He knew everything about the life of Pasolini. So it was like, it was really interesting to work on this. He had a lot of little story about Pasolini, and I spent a great time working on this.
Yes, I want to know if you, how do you define your work? Like, if you're doing this kind of, like using always the same typography and stuff. If you're doing it to react, or like if it's, I don't know how to do it, to say it, but no, français. If it's like a reaction to the style, the graphic design of today, or I don't know. Mais en français, si c'est une façon de critiquer en quelque sorte ce qui se fait ou ce qui s'est fait avant, et de faire quelque chose de très simple et d'uniforme.
Ouais.
I think that it's a reaction to French tradition. Like, you know, French style is really about drawings and lots of ornamentation, and I think that we are more influenced by Swiss tradition.
Yeah, obviously we are more influenced by Swiss heritage more than French. But I think more than a reaction, it's not that we want to break something or yes. to go against something, but it's more that that's the element we like to work with. That's what we like we relate to work like this. And as I said, I think we don't have the same we don't have the same way of reacting in front of our history. I mean, I don't really care if it looks like French anymore, or if it looks like Swiss, or we don't have this kind of we do what we like to do. That's what is main.
I think that there is a lot of instinct beside this.
Yeah, as we told earlier about the functionalism, aesthetic, etc. I think we love this kind of stuff, but we don't want to be stuck in it. For example, I think modernism is failed in the theory, and so it's difficult now to say that I would like to be a modernist. But I love the aesthetic of modernism, and it's good enough for me. I mean, I don't need to have a bigger explanation of how I use why I use this kind of typography, why I use this kind of layout. It's really it's much more sensitive than it looks, I think.
I think that if one day we fall in love with another typeface, we will just use typeface.
Yeah.
But
is it clear enough? Or?
Yes, thank you.
¿Alguna pregunta más? Okay. Merci Manon, merci Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah.